Episode of Stories Behind Success. And today we're going to get all geeky and operational on you because guess what? Even though it's not like as hot and sexy as like how to get more leads or how to get leads for a penny or something like all the other shiny objects out there, let me tell you what, this is the secret sauce to if you actually want to have a business that doesn't run you, right? And so today's guest is very special because we like, even in our first conversation, we were completely geeking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just found a new sister. And her name is Christy Belt Grossman. And let me brag on her just for a little bit. She has been the COO of a very top producing team for 23 years. They do on average $60 to $65 million in volume per year. And she has her own teaching and coaching company that's specifically geared towards admin and operations members because she has a special spot in her heart for them and knows how important they are. They are literally the key to everything that you want in life. I'll just put it that way. And because she's so awesome, she's been on stage with Gary Keller, has spoken in front of literally tens of thousands of people. So for us to have a little slice of her today is a real treat. So Christy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, talking about my passion. I love my EAs, my wizards behind the screen, right?
Yep. And so let me put it in context for you guys. For those of you who are screaming inside or maybe outside as well, saying, oh my gosh, there's not enough time in a day, or when can I take a break from my business? It's running me ragged, even though maybe some people may like to admit it. And some people are like, no, I'm fine. No, you're really not fine. And you're looking for a way out or even just a way to breathe. Okay, it's not like you hate your life or anything. It's just you want to breathe a little bit and enjoy your career. And so Christy here is kind of the key to that. So you might want to listen up. And what she's going to impart some wisdom on today is that when you do decide to get leverage and you hire that admin assistant, right? There's a difference between just hiring a warm body that seems like you can dump a bunch of stuff on them versus someone who can actually like take it off your plate and then you not have to worry about it. Because we hear story after story about, oh my gosh, nightmare hire. I put it on their plate. It's back on my plate, but in even worse form. So not only did I lose time and money, I'm even more miserable and cranky. And it's like not a good formula. So what we want to really dig into is helping you understand that there's a difference in quality of who you're hiring, whether it's like, oh, admin assistant, let's say just kind of like, okay, like I'll just do some light errands type thing. Or if you're an entrepreneur and you got like business to shovel off, someone who can really take charge of that. So we're going to dive into the top 3 things that is a difference between an admin versus what, this is a term that Christy coined, ops boss, because I haven't heard it anywhere else. Is it your turn? All right. So, Christy's special term, ops boss. And it sounds so cool. It sounds like it should be a TV show.
Yeah, behind the scenes, special ops, right?
Exactly. So, Christy, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that separates kind of the men from the mice, the men from the mice, the admin from the ops boss. First thing, what is it?
So I think most people, when they're hiring their first assistant, they're thinking about things like, oh my God, can I afford this? How much is it going to cost me? What if I make a bad hire? And that is because I think they're talking about hiring just an average assistant. I think they're thinking in terms of paying for someone's time instead of paying for someone's results. And so if you're looking for someone that you're just going to pay them an hourly wage, that's a totally different person than someone who's going to provide results. And results can be really big results, right? Results don't have to be just something as simple as you took my stuff to the dry cleaner or you made a brochure for my listing. Results could actually be business building results. So for example, on my team, the year before last, I generated $511,000 in GCI for my team through the use of systems.
Not too shabby. I think there's got a...
The average assistant is paid for their time. Mega assistant or ops boss is paid for their results. So when you're looking for that hire, you're looking for 2 different people. And what I'm finding as I'm coaching and teaching and traveling around the country is the more business you want to do, the more you need that higher level person. And so the more productive teams, the more productive agents have a really different profile in that job than they have in the average assistant.
And so let me echo kind of how that shows up in real life for folks that either haven't hired yet or know what it feels like to have that maybe busted hire. So you're like, oh, I get to shovel all this stuff off. And when you have an admin that's not built for that pressure, because everybody handles pressure differently and has different capacity. So you take this poor innocent admin that's just meant to love and to help and just do light stuff, like maybe doing your running your dry cleaning or just light paperwork, right? Like light. And then you like hand over this anvil, right? You're like, boof, and here's loads of problem, loads of chaos. We're like, organize it and fix it. And that's like requires somebody who can like bench 400 pounds. And here's this like infant who's still like, maybe pooping in their diapers, and they can maybe roll a little toy ball around, right? Like
away with words.
They're like, Christine, you're not supposed to be saying that. But like, the growth, the muscularity, the amount of weight that person can handle.
I think there's a challenge there, because for the agent, I think sometimes they don't even know what they want. They don't have clarity on what the 20% of the role is. So 20% of our activities give us 80% of our results, right? But they're not even clear on what the 20% is. They know they just want to get everything off their plate. So before you're even making your hire, that I think is where the challenge exists. Like, you have to know, what do you want them to do? And of all the 20 million things I want you to do, what's the most important? And hire to that. So is it, I need a client care person who's really good with people? Is it somebody who's really good with finances and numbers? Like, that's a different behavioral profile. Is it someone who's going to hire agents and do accountability for my team? There's all different levels of things, and that each one of those dictates a different kind of person to hire.
Absolutely. And also thinking ahead, right? Because a lot of people just hire for like, oh, just like, I want to shovel off, right? And then they end up outgrowing them very quickly.
Yes.
And that can be in the form of, oh, they can't handle as much as I was hoping.
It actually works both ways. They either outgrow their assistant very quickly because they hire just that immediate urgent need person, not the person who's growth oriented, or they think, I can't stand to hire this. I need to hire someone who's fast, who moves fast like me and thinks like me and is a driver. Like, I need that person. And they hire that person, and then they don't grow their business fast enough, and the EA outgrows them. I actually have coached a couple off of teams that way. Not on purpose. That wasn't my goal, but they grew faster than their agent. So it works kind of both ways.
Yeah, because you bring up a very interesting point. Because mind you, when you hire somebody that is top talent, they're going to push you, and you also have to grow yourself, right? Because if they outgrow you, like, real talent's not going to be like, oh, here's like this dingbat, I'll just hang around and hope that something cool lands in my lap. They're going to be looking for better opportunities, as they should, if you're not providing it to them.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing. If you're hiring someone and you're thinking of them, I want agents to make that transition from thinking of someone as an expense and someone as an investment. The average assistant is just an expense to your business, because it's kind of like a tit for tat. I pay you and you do a task. Now, a mega assistant or an ops boss is actually an investment in your business, because I'm investing in you so that you multiply 3 times. I call it the 3X rule. Everyone on my team on the operations side is expected to generate 3 times their salary in GCI to the team through the use of systems or whatever their daily job is. So for example, they may be the transaction coordinator. My transaction coordinator's goal is to be mentioned on Zillow reviews more often than any agent on our team. And that's purposeful, because we know when that happens that they got great service and they're going to send us referrals, and we track those referrals. That's an investment. So we pay her a salary, but we get way more in return. And that should be that way for everyone on your team. But Absolutely. That's a totally different person than the average assistant who you just pay for their time.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I'll also point out that that's a different mindset for the actual agent rainmaker too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so speak on that. Like, what is the mindset required for an agent to be able to handle an ops boss? Because I don't know one agent that says, oh, wait, I just want an admin that has a limit that's not going to take stuff off my plate, like in an unlimited way, and I can go on vacation and I don't have to worry about it. I want an admin that makes me worry when I'm on vacation. Like, nobody says that.
So I think if you want to hire an ops boss, you have to be the kind of person an ops boss is looking for. An ops boss is looking for someone who empowers them. An ops boss is not looking for a great salesperson, they're looking for a leader. So I think we have to make that transition. If I'm the rainmaker, have I made the transition into being a leader, or am I just a superstar salesperson? Because it's two totally different skill sets, right? And nobody teaches us how to do that. We get training on negotiations, how to sign a listing agreement, how to make cold calls. Where are we going and getting leadership training as rainmakers?
Mm-hmm. Because once you have an ops boss or any person on your team, like, you have to care about them, their future, because if you don't, like, bye-bye.
So an ops boss is not, an average assistant is looking for a job. An ops boss is looking for a career. An ops boss is always looking for opportunity for growth, and they may be looking for financial opportunity for growth as well. Whereas the average assistant is looking to make a salary, they're looking for just a job to go to every day, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And there are many agents that's all they really want and all they really need. But if you're a rainmaker that wants to grow and build your business, and you want an ops boss, you've got to provide opportunity, because talent is always looking for opportunity, right?
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? Just to stir the pot a little bit, because if it's too calm, it's just not that fun. Here we go. And I know you were saying, like, hey, some people don't want that. They just need an assistant. Like, but really, do you really, like, for those of you who are thinking, oh, no, I don't want an ops boss, and having an ops boss doesn't mean you have to do 100 million in volume, right? Ops boss means that you want somebody awesome that can really, like, be true leverage in your business, not like a little patch, not like a small Band-Aid. And so I would
think of it like their business, even though they're not the owner.
Yeah, exactly. And so who wouldn't want that? So for those of you who maybe in denial a little bit, I'll say that and say, oh, I don't want leverage. I don't want somebody too great. Like, that's not where my business is at. It's like, well, you know what? I think everybody deserves somebody like that. And by you getting there means that you've developed as a person and as a leader, and it's going to do wonders for your business. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Just tickling the brains of those.
Your clients deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
If you deserve that, and your clients deserve that, because as a single agent by yourself, you're going to hit a ceiling with your time. You're going to hit a ceiling with your energy, all of those things. And at a certain point, you suffer and your business suffers and your clients suffer.
Yep. And or else real estate is 24/7. It's not a way of life. I've never heard somebody that, like, truly wants 24/7 of real estate in their life.
Right.
So, and those who say it with kind of like this thing in their neck, and they're convincing themselves that it's okay.
But I think that comes from a place of caring. I think the people that I hear saying that is because they really care. They got into real estate because they want to make money. Mm-hmm. They care about their clients, though, and they think no one else can service their clients the way they do. And so it comes from a good place. And I think what I want them to understand is you can actually serve people at a higher level with an assistant, mm-hmm. or with a team, that you're actually really caring for your clients more.
Yeah.
And in life.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you're paying the price of your own life and your own health, that's not a fair exchange. And you're not going to be around longer than you would if you had some balance and some leverage and had an ops boss. So think of it, then I would say, think of it more long term to see how much longer you can serve them and be happier doing it.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree.
So, all right, cool. So I know we kind of went down a couple rabbit holes because I've never done that before. Point number 2 for difference between an average admin and ops boss. What is that?
So I call it bottom line thinking. So an average assistant might do things for you like file your bills. They might actually pay your bills, but they're not looking at your profit and loss statement. An ops boss is either creating a profit and loss statement for you, or maybe you're outsourcing it to an accountant. They are actually reviewing it and giving you recommendations about what to do with it, how you can spend your money better. I call it shooting squirrels. Like, you go to the convention, you go to that your Board of Realtors convention or your company convention, and you go down to the vendor hall and you, like, sign up for 27 things. And then you never, right? That never happens to anybody. And then it's like 6 months later, and all of a sudden you've spent $6,000 and done nothing with it. So an ops boss is looking at it. They're keeping track of your return on investment for every source, every place that you're investing money, for leads, for advertising. What are we getting for return? Do we want to keep putting our dollars there? Should we switch them to somewhere else? Should we take them out of pay-per-click and start doing farming? What does that look like? You know, they're going to really dig into all those details that you really don't like doing as a rainmaker. Like, I don't think most realtors get into business so that they can play around with numbers, right?
Right. And
go ahead.
I was going to say, forget not like doing it. They're just flat out not doing it at all.
Yeah. I know a lot of realtors who probably aren't even making a profit. I don't know. There's a lot of people who don't even know what they're making. They know how much volume they're selling. I'm selling 20 million or 40 million, but they have no idea what their bottom line is. So I call that bottom line thinking. And your ops boss is going to be like your tool in the pocket to really help you net the most money you can make. Instead of just selling homes, we're focused on the bottom line. And an average assistant might go, oh, well, I made you this great marketing campaign, and here's the flyer, and it looks so great. Isn't it good? And we're going to send this out. But they have no idea what the cost is. What do they expect the return to be? How many deals are we going to get out of this? You know, what's the net income? Whereas an ops boss has analyzed all that purposefully up front and made the hot, sexy flyer to go with it.
Ooh, you can have both. Imagine that.
Yeah. Now, so what you pay for too.
That's really a good point.
About that. So I think a lot of people want to have the ops boss. You know, you want the champagne on a beer budget.
Good luck with that, right?
You get what you pay for.
You really do.
If you want to pay $15 an hour, you'll get $15 an hour in return. And if you want to pay a professional salary, you'll get professional results in return.
And so I can imagine, so I'm going to just be like the voice in other agents that are watching. Wait, I already have an assistant, right? I have an admin, but I want them to be an ops boss. I want them to be bottom line thinkers. What do they do?
So number one, you need to make sure that's the person that, do they have the ability to do that? Okay. Do they want to do that? So for example, I teach all around the country. I teach a class called Be a Boss, 10 Secrets of a Mega EA. I have had agents bring their, and it's a class for rainmakers to come with their operations people. I've had people go home from that class and their EA, their executive assistant, say, I don't want to do that. I just want to be a transaction coordinator. I think that's a great outcome because now they know this is not the person for that role and I need to go hire somebody for that role. So I think part of the challenge is the agent doesn't know how to train them, because the agent isn't doing a lot of these tasks on their own already. So find the resources, send them to classes. I think that you have some interesting things coming up on the table where people could get training for that. Send them to my class. Read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Have them read that. It has everything in it.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a matter of, again, if you have somebody in-house, yes, this is a chance for you to take a look at them and say, are they a fit?
Are they a fit? And then what is our plan? What are our goals? Do we have written goals? Do I have accountability meetings with them every week? That's another challenge I see out in the market is we're busy, we're out taking listings, we're showing property. Am I investing the time to help my admin grow to the place where I want them to grow? So what are our expectations? What are our goals? And then holding them accountable to that. It can be as easy as a 15-minute meeting every week.
Absolutely. And I think, Christy, the speaker is a bit loud. Is there a speaker you can turn down on your side?
Is that all right?
Yep. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because I'm getting feedback.
Okay.
Testing. Okay.
Testing. Is it better?
I think it's better. We'll just roll with it. All right. So the again, just for rainmakers who are really wanting to go from, oh my gosh, I might have an admin, or do I have an admin or an ops boss? Being very purposeful about finding out, creating space for your admin to speak freely and not feel like they're going to get slit, and thrown to the curb. And like you said, creating that space where they can actually spend time with you and get answers from you. Because a lot of rainmakers are so busy, they like literally hire somebody and just like ditch them. It's like this little orphan that's like crying on the side of the street with nobody to feed them.
It's so sad. I literally have sat around tables at our national convention with assistants who cry because they want so much to do a good job for their agent, and they're frustrated that they are not able to do that. And even when the meetings are scheduled, what often happens is the rainmaker comes in and takes control of the meeting, and it's just about them brain dumping everything onto the assistant's plate. So I think you need to be really purposeful about a 15-minute meeting and let the admin empower the admin to be in charge of that meeting so they get what they need to help you achieve your goals.
Yep. So it's a two-way street. The agent being a leader enough to empower the admin, and then the admin also raising their leadership lid so they can rein them in. They have permission to do so, and then they feel confident to be able to do that.
Because the typical personality profiles are a complete mismatch, which is a good thing because you balance each other. But a high D or a high I is going to run all over an SC. And the average assistant is probably an SC. An ops boss is probably has a little more D in them because they've got a little of that builder, driver personality. So that might be a little bit of a different conversation.
And what Christy is referring to is the DISC. It's a behavioral style profile assessment. So basically, layman's terms, like personality styles, right? So the average admin has more of that servant's heart, but what she's saying is an ops boss is going to have a little bit more of that bull in a china cabinet type of thing going on, where they can push back to your craziness and actually have like a little bit more of a backbone. I don't know if that's the proper word to use, but like
a little, they're just still their communication style is a little bit more direct, more driving. They're willing to take charge.
Yep. So they're able to come back and like push back in a healthy way,
right?
And not just be run over by you. So
yeah, cool,
awesome. All right. So point number 3: admin versus ops boss. What is the difference?
So I call it mega mindset. So an average assistant, for example, makes a mistake and it kills them. They're devastated. Their worst fear, their worst nightmare is making a mistake. Whereas an ops boss knows that you have to fail and fail forward and fail as fast as possible. An ops boss is more like I'm going to ask you for forgiveness instead of asking you for permission. And an average assistant is always waiting for your permission to do things. So you have to be really clear on what you want. Which one of those do you want? And neither one, there's no right or wrong answer. There's just right or wrong for you and your business, right? An ops boss is also very growth oriented, very learning based. An average assistant is going to come in, they're going to expect you to train them. They're going to only want to know like what their responsibilities are. And an ops boss, you as a leader, if you're a rainmaker who's growing, you're growing in all of your areas, right? You're probably like running marathons, you're listening to podcasts every morning, you're doing your 10,000 steps, you're just going to classes, etc., etc. So you're learning and growing everywhere. That's the kind of person you need in an ops boss. You need somebody who's like competitive with themselves, competitive with other people. They don't want to just know like, how do I do real estate? They're like looking at Nike and Nordstrom and all these companies, Apple, that are giving us experience because they know that we're not competing with other realtors. We're competing with all these other companies giving people experiences. How can we do that in our real estate business? That would be kind of how an ops boss thinks. An average assistant would be thinking, oh, well, what does John Smith, top producer, do to market his homes? Let's do what he does. See what I mean?
Yep. So how that will show up in everyday language would be like, you feel like you're constantly having to feed like an average admin, like a bird that's just like chirp, 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 feed me. And
you're so good with your analogies. I love it.
Like,
that's a totally great analogy. versus an ops boss bird would be flying off looking for its own food.
Mm-hmm. And they might have brought back some worms and squirrels, and some of it might not be perfect, but you're like, dude, I'm so glad you're bringing back stuff, and they're hungry. They'll even ask you, hey, can I go learn this? Will you pay for a class? Like, they'll bring you stuff, right? Instead of you constantly having to bring stuff to them. And
Absolutely.
it feels really good. And I think the part where the rainmaker, as a leader, you have to appreciate that. If you're not developed enough to know that, hey, I got an ops boss on my hand, that's cool. It can be interpreted as, man, they're always bothering me with this stuff.
That's a great point. Yeah. And an ops boss is they're not waiting for opportunity to come to them. They are always finding and seeking their own opportunity. So an average assistant might say, oh, if a training class happens to be in my office, I will go to that. And an ops boss is like, I need to learn more about marketing. Where can I find that? They find it, go to the rainmaker and say, hey, would you send me to this class?
Absolutely. And I always say it's a two-way street, right? Like, yes, if you have an ops boss, you can give them nothing and they will figure it out. But
yes,
if you take like 15 minutes or something, right? It will save them hours. Like, isn't that worth it? So like, look at the return on investment of how much you're supporting your ops boss, even if they're fully capable, and like, be there for them a little bit, not like all day, every day, but.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, are you empowering them to be successful? And when you first are starting with someone, you have to invest the time. I trust me, I've hired 2 admins this year. It's the most painful thing ever to train. It really is, because you're training someone to do something that you don't even like doing yourself, really, because you're leveraging off all that 80% that's just not your strong suit. So, but the investment pays off. And so the more you spend time, like you said, up front, and then it's like a kite, you let it out, pull it back in, let it out a little farther, pull it back in, but you have to keep doing that, pull it back in before it can go out. And then eventually you just let it all the way out and it flies.
Yeah.
And you just let the kite go up. If you just run out to the wind, it immediately sinks. You're at the beach, you know that.
Yes, and I think that's really one of the most common mistakes that we see, right? It's like, oh, I got an assistant, whoosh, here you go, handle it, peace out. That's like, a wishful thinking. But I would say, like, we'd like to put a red flag out to anybody who's hiring anybody and say, it's kind of like having a kid, right? Like, there's some diapers to change, and then you got to let them like walk and grow up. You can't just like ditch them and like let them cry it out, like forever and never feed them.
Look at a little kid learning how to walk. All they do is fall like 100 million times till they're black and blue, and then all of a sudden one day, boom, they take off running. So are we giving our hires permission to fail?
And I want to, and you made a really good point. Like, even you, Miss Ops Boss, right? It was painful for you to hire an admin and train them, not in the sense that you don't like them, but it's like, it's an investment in your time and you want to go run and do something else, but you know how important it is for you to. I have
failed forward in that area. I've made multiple bad hires. And what I found over time is the more time I spend up front, the less time I spend later, and that makes everyone happy, because nobody wants to be micromanaged. Nobody wants to feel like they're doing a bad job. So the more you invest up front, the more likely you are to empower them to succeed in their role.
So I just want to really highlight that point, Christy, because that's so important. When you hire somebody, man, all I can say to you is suck it up, Buttercup. Like, you need to spend time with them. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm so excited I get to like train somebody on admin work or whatever you're delegating, right? But you have to do it. That's the commitment that you have to step into when you hire somebody. And that is the investment. That's the just like grit through it. It's not going to be like in your joy zone, so to speak. But if you don't, there's far worse consequences. So the
investment actually happens before you hire. You have to make investment in time to get clarity on what's the top 20% of the role, what are the cultural values I'm hiring to, and what is the behavioral profile I'm hiring to, and be clear on that, because those are things that if you're not clear on the behavioral profile, you may hire a super talented person that is not going to stay with you. So I may need we talked about the DISC. I may need the steady, great with people person and the detail-oriented person. And I may hire somebody who's a driver. They're going to leave. They're going to be bored. They're going to hate talking to clients. And they may be a talented, productive person, but not for that role. So I think I think a lot of agents don't know, they don't sit down long enough to define what I'm looking for before they hire. They just know that they're at a pain point, the phone's ringing off the hook, they got sticky notes everywhere, their clients are not happy that they're not returning calls. Oh my God, I need some help, this is awful, I can't do this anymore, and they just hire somebody. Absolutely. And the other mistake I think they make is they don't talk to enough people, because interviewing process is painful. Right now, we're at the lowest unemployment rates we've seen in 20 years. So we're most likely looking for people who are already employed happily somewhere else. And if you're only looking for people who are unemployed, you've narrowed everything down like this. And so what happens is we talk to maybe 10 people, and we're like, 9 of them were like, they could barely spell their name on their resume. And then the 10th one comes in and you're like, oh my God, this is talent, I have talent. Oh, you guys, I got a new EA, she's awesome. Well, guess what? She wasn't. She looked better than the other 9, but if you had talked to 100, you would have found 10 people better than her. And I know that because I just went through this recently. My recruiter got 400 resumes, interviewed over 100 of them for me, interviewed 30 of them on video for me. Then I interviewed over video about 10, brought 3 of them for in-person interviews and 2 of them for a second in-person interview. Then they met my team. Then we did references. Then we hired.
Woo!
I know, it's brutal. It's brutal, but this is your business. Like, this is the most important thing you do. Wouldn't you want to find, if you're a successful agent, you're 1 in 100. So why wouldn't you want to find the 1 in 100 admin?
Yep. And here's the thing. Here's the alternative. You keep running your rat race and you never have leverage and you're never like off, right? You can't shut it off, and it's hurting you personally, with your family, friends, and soon you are going to burn out. Like, that's just inevitable. I can't even talk anymore. And so doing it the right way is so important. And let me get your thoughts on this. You talk about the behavioral styles, which, you know, we're referring to the DISC. What do you think is the importance of someone understanding the principles of different behavioral styles, whether it's DISC or Myers-Briggs or whatever? How important is that? Scale of 1 to 10.
117. Because it gives you a tool to learn how to communicate better. And when you hire an ops boss or an admin, whatever, anyone on your team that you hire, it's almost like a marriage. I mean, you spend more time together sometimes than you spend with your spouse. And so you have to learn how to communicate. Isn't that like one of the most successful ingredients in a good marriage is communication? So if you can learn behavioral profile, on my team, we have little pictures of everybody, and they have their behavioral profile on the picture, and then they'll have like 1 or 2 statements about them. Like mine says, be brief, be specific, be to the point, because I'm a high D. But it helps us and learn how to communicate together. Because you can walk in, it's like being in a restaurant. Like, I can go to Japan and I can walk in and order breakfast in Spanish, and I said all the right words because I know how to order breakfast in Spanish, but a Japanese waitress has no idea what I'm saying because she can't hear my language. So if you can learn to speak each other's language, you'll get so much farther.
Yeah, and then let me share like an example of like once you integrate the language of like the DISC and people, like your whole team understanding that, it can be the difference between an agent saying, oh my gosh, that admin is driving me nuts because she's doing like what she's really great at and what she's designed to do. And that can be a reaction of frustration, and now it's creating conflict. But when you have a team that understands it, they're like, oh my gosh, she is being so high C. Thank goodness for that, because I really suck at that, and they're making up for it. And it's a little, you know, like, yeah, I might not want to do it, but I know how good for me it is. And so now there's an appreciation and harmony, and that times 100 is like going to make or break your team.
Yeah, it's like you can try to make a pie with only 2 ingredients, but you really need 4 ingredients to make the pie. And without one of them, maybe it'll look like a pie, but it won't taste very good, you know? So you need all the ingredients on the team, and you need to learn how to communicate with each other. So like Christine, if you and I are on the team, like we're both high D. We're walking in, I got a problem with you, like da 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 da, and you're like, okay, da 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 da, boom, done, right? Like we're problem solvers fast as possible. If you're doing that with your admin, they can't hear you, because all they can hear is you made a mistake, and that's their biggest fear. But if you have a conversation in a different manner, they can hear you. You can get on the same, oh, I hear where you're coming from. I can fix that. We can do this. It's just a totally different conversation.
Yeah, and even if your conversation style is not perfect, if they understand you're the train wreck that you are, then they're like, oh yeah, she's a hot mess, and I know what she really meant. There's like some buffer room for that.
Totally. There's a little grace given there.
You know, your example with the ingredients, I just have to share a quick story. As a kid, you know, you've made Kool-Aid as a kid, right? And so never reading the directions, I thought I can just mix water and Kool-Aid, and I was so excited. It was bright cherry red, just like in the commercial. I'm like, oh my gosh, my own like big jar of Kool-Aid. Pour it in a cup. I'm like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did not have any sugar in there. So it looked like Kool-Aid. It smelled like Kool-Aid. It was not Kool-Aid.
Totally. Total disappointment.
So wherever that fits in, yeah, I have random stories. My apologies. We will move on. Okay.
That's awesome.
So anyways, all right. So we covered the top 3 things that are admin versus ops boss. And actually you got so much more because we went down like many little rabbit trails. So you have all these little holes everywhere full of valuable treasures, mind you. And
absolutely.
And I want to highlight that, you know, Christy is having an event called Ops Boss. It's an Ops Boss retreat, is it not?
Ops Boss Leader Retreat.
Okay. So tell me a little about that.
So I'm really excited about it. And thank you for sponsoring, by the way. I'm gathering some of the top industry thought leaders on the operations side. And what I found, you asked earlier, how can I help my assistant become an ops boss? What I find is most conferences are sales oriented. And so we want stuff for our assistants, and we go to these conferences and it's like 3 days of all sales stuff, which is great for us to learn. We still want to learn that too, but there's nothing for the operations people, or there's just like a little 1-hour session here or there. So I have gathered some speakers who are inside real estate and outside real estate both, to come and talk on leadership and teamwork and how to attract talent through social media, all kinds of things. We have Friday night social. We have all day Saturday masterminds, panels, speakers. On Sunday, we're doing Super Soul Sunday with spirituality, creativity, and joy, health, and fitness. So we're going to really energize people and give them resources. I think what happens is a lot of us get really siloed, and we're looking for, like, where are the other unicorns out there? Like, I'm a leader on my team, and there maybe aren't a lot of teams in my area. Where can I go to meet people? So this is the event. There'll be about 100 of us gathering in October in right outside of Washington, D.C.
Awesome. And so this would be a call out to anybody who's an admin that's like, hey, I want to level myself up. Like, I want to break through my own admin skills. I want to be an ops boss. So that would be great for admin, but also really great for leaders, rainmakers who wants to understand what an ops boss looks like, smells like, feels like, and also experience the conversations that go around there. Because the more you understand that, the more you can hire to it and you can bridge that gap. And that's so
let me just correct you on that. The retreat is ops only.
So just kidding.
If the rainmaker wants to come, but I have a solution for you.
Okay.
I do teach around the country. That my Be a Boss class is the ideal place to come. It's taught from the EA point of view, and every rainmaker who has come kicking and screaming, thinking it's a systems and checklist class. It's not. They walk out and they're like, oh my God, I just got into the mind of my EA. I totally understand what this should look like, and now we can go back together and make this work. So that would be an opportunity for them. So the next ones I have that at Greenville, South Carolina in October, Nashville in November, and Virginia in January.
Yep. And, you know, you got quite the schedule there. You're traveling all over, and you've spoken in front of so many, and you are like the advocate for all the ops bosses, future ops bosses, and you're here to like wake them up, create some more. So it's awesome what you're doing. And I really
love
appreciate
my
it.
EAs. They have great big hearts. They want their agents to succeed, and they just need the tools.
Absolutely. Very cool. So thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you who are watching, if you would like to have a really frank, honest, just open you up type of conversation, that's what we do. We like to dive into your business and help you break through to the next level. And you can go to strategycallnow.com. That's strategycallnow.com. And let's just open it up. Let's just have an honest conversation, whether it's about systems, process, people, technology. It's all about bringing it all together. You miss any one, you're like lopsided. It's not too cool. And let's help you break through those. So if you enjoyed this episode, share it on Facebook, pass it forward. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Christy. Bye.
Bye.